What if I told you that one of the Kansas City Chiefs' most talked about former first-round picks is now facing the most intense pressure of his career and his future with the team might be hanging by a thread? Yeah, this isn't just another rumor. This is the kind of situation that could quietly turn into a massive roster shakeup. Because right now, inside that locker room, behind the cameras and press conferences, something is shifting and not everyone is safe anymore. You already know how this works in Kansas City. This is not a rebuilding team. This is not a wait and develop situation. This is a championship or bust organization led by Patrick Mahomes. And when you're in that window, every single roster spot matters. Every snap matters. Every mistake, it gets magnified. And that's exactly why this former first-round pick is suddenly under the microscope. Coming into the league, the expectations were sky high. Drafted early, labeled as a future cornerstone, someone who was supposed to grow into a major piece of this Chiefs dynasty. Fans were excited. Analysts were confident. The front office believed they had found something special. But fast forward to now, and the conversation has completely changed. Instead of talking about his breakout season, people are asking, what happened? Instead of highlighting his development, they're questioning his consistency. Instead of calling him untouchable, they're quietly putting him on the hot seat. And make no mistake, in a system like Kansas City's, once that pressure starts building, it doesn't slow down. It only gets worse. Now here's where things get even more interesting. The Chiefs have been making moves. Not small moves calculated, aggressive decisions that signal one thing: they are not willing to wait around anymore. New talent is coming in. Competition is rising. And suddenly, that guaranteed role this player once had, it doesn't feel so guaranteed anymore. Think about it. When a team starts bringing in depth at your position, when coaches start rotating more players in practice, when your snaps start getting split, that's not random. That's a message. And the message is simple: prove it or lose it. You can almost feel the tension building. Every practice rep matters more. Every preseason performance is being watched closely. Every mistake feels heavier than before. Because this isn't just about development anymore. This is about survival. And fans are starting to notice too. There's been a shift in the conversation online. At first, it was support patience belief that he just needed time. But now, that patience is fading. You're seeing more questions, more doubts, more people asking if the Chiefs made the right decision in the draft. And in a city like Kansas City, where expectations are sky high every single season, that kind of pressure can be overwhelming. But here's the twist that nobody is talking about enough. This could actually be the turning point. Because sometimes, when a player is pushed to the edge, when their role is threatened, when everything feels uncertain, that's when you find out who they really are. Do they step up? Or do they fade away? We've seen both happen before. We've seen players rise under pressure and become stars. And we've seen others disappear when the moment got too big. So now the question is, which one is he going to be? Because the opportunity is still there. Let's be clear about that. The Chiefs haven't given up yet. If they had, we'd be talking about trade rumors or release discussions already. But instead, what we're seeing is something different. We're seeing a team that's challenging him, pushing him, testing him, and giving him one last chance to prove why he was worth that first-round pick. But here's the reality: chances like this don't last forever. Especially not on a team like this. If he doesn't respond, if he doesn't show clear improvement, if he doesn't take that next step, the Chiefs will move on. And they won't hesitate. Because that's how championship teams operate. They don't wait for potential. They demand production. And right now, production is the biggest question mark. You can almost imagine what the coaching staff is thinking behind closed doors. They're reviewing tape, breaking down every play, looking at every detail. Is he improving? Is he consistent? Is he reliable in big moments? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters most. Not the draft position, not the hype, not the expectations, just performance. And if that performance isn't there, the decision becomes easier than people think. But let's not ignore the other side of this story. Because while the pressure is real, the talent is still there. This isn't a situation where a player just doesn't have the ability. That's what makes this so frustrating and so fascinating at the same time. We've seen flashes, moments where he looks exactly like the player the Chiefs thought they were getting. Moments where you think, okay, this is it. This is the breakout. But then it disappears. Inconsistency has been the biggest issue. And in the NFL, especially on a contender, inconsistency can be just as damaging as poor performance. Because coaches need to trust you. Quarterbacks need to trust you. Teammates need to trust you. And if that trust isn't there, everything starts to fall apart. That's the battle he's facing right now. It's not just about making plays. It's about earning trust. And trust is built over time through consistency, through reliability, through showing up when it matters most. So now, every single game becomes a test. Every snap becomes an opportunity. Every moment becomes a chance to change the narrative. But also, every mistake becomes a risk. Because the margin for error is shrinking. And here's something else to think about. The Chiefs roster is evolving. This isn't the same team from a few years ago. The front office is constantly looking ahead, constantly trying to stay one step ahead of the league. That means bringing in new talent, developing younger players, and making tough decisions when necessary. No one is safe. Not even former first-round picks. Especially when younger, hungrier players are starting to make noise. And that's another layer to this story. Because competition doesn't just come from outside signings. It comes from within. There are players on that roster right now who are fighting for that same role, who are pushing hard in practice, who are trying to prove they deserve more snaps. And when coaches see that hunger, that energy, that consistency, it becomes harder to ignore. So now, it's not just about living up to expectations. It's about beating out the competition. And that's a completely different challenge. Because now, you're not just competing against the standard. You're competing against real players, real performances, real results. And if someone else is producing more showing, more consistency, making fewer mistakes, the decision becomes very simple. They play. You don't. That's the reality of the situation. And it's happening right now. So what happens next? That's the biggest question. Does he rise to the occasion, lock in, and finally deliver on that first-round potential? Or does the pressure become too much, leading to reduced playing time and eventually a possible exit from Kansas City? Because, let's be honest, both outcomes are on the table. And that's what makes this so intense. This isn't a done deal. This isn't a finished story. This is unfolding in real time. Every practice, every game, every decision is shaping what comes next. And for fans, this is something to watch very closely, because it could have a real impact on the team. If he steps up and becomes the player they need, that strengthens the roster in a big way. But if he doesn't, it forces the Chiefs to adjust, to rethink, to possibly make moves they didn't originally plan. And in a season where every detail matters, that could be huge. So keep your eyes on this situation. Because the pressure is real. The stakes are high. And the clock is ticking. One way or another, something is going to change.